Welcome to the Moon God Pod. I'm your host, JwowLax. Also, Jason Harrell is my real name, but you can find me in the Discord at JwowLax. With me always is my big man, Lovox, and today we are welcoming Wiggles, Moon God extraordinaire. I've been looking forward to talking to him. I'm going to say that about probably every Moon God, but that's the beauty of this show. Obviously, for those that are new to the show, the Moon God is the pinnacle of AKU world created by Micah Johnson. There are Akutars and then there are Mega Moon Gods, which you can see in the bottom corner of Wiggles' profile picture. That's what we all wanted. We wanted the Moon Gods. Then there's the status of having all 10 chapters, which is the real Moon God. With that said, when we were off camera or before we hit record, we were kind of talking about a lot of interesting things. And Wiggles, I want to kind of jump right into it. First, what are you kind of doing in the space now? And then we'll get into how you came about with AKU.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me, Jason and Ox. In the Web3 space right now, I'm co-founding a media company called Dissenter Daily. And so we're focused on creating community generated content. Initially, we've been putting out a newsletter ourselves, building out a website, creating a content funnel that makes sense for Web3 partnerships. And we're going to be ramping that up at some point. So that's, Dissenter Daily, which we started. And there's two other moon gods that are on that team. They're not very active moon gods. I'm the most active, so I won't mention them. And then I'm also working part-time for this gaming studio called Infinigods, which is creating games like tower defense, civilization type games that are blockchain based, NFT based. So yeah, that's pretty much my where I'm at right now in the NFT space.
So I wanted to touch on that right out the gate because Lovox and I were fortunate enough to go to Galaverse in Malta, and the Web3 gaming is something that a lot of people have a lot of questions about, and it seems like nobody really knows the direction. Like every project that you run across kind of says, we're going to build a game. And one thing is for certain, when we were at Galaverse, that I personally learned is that I always kind of knew it took a lot to put on a game, but man, it takes a lot to put on a game, especially a Web3. Can you kind of just touch on that kind of experience that in the obstacles with what you're trying to do?
Indeed. So yeah, the gaming side, so within Infinigods, I'm not really involved in that bit, but we have Damon Gura and Owen O'Donoghue, and I mentioned off camera that Owen was the head of director of gaming at Facebook before he started with Infinigods, co-founded that with Damon. So they're developing this catalog of games, and they're focused on making these games fun and immersive. I think that's the number one thing in this whole space. We're kind of putting the cart before the horse in creating all these fancy tokenomics, visuals and stuff, but is the gameplay actually fun? And that's where I think the good projects are going to differentiate. It's create a good game and start tokenizing it, but slowly do it. Don't get a lot of these tokenomics might not work. We see with Axie Infinity, is it sustainable? Whereas Infinigods is starting with the tokenization of the actual assets rather than an ERC20 token to start. So I think that you got to focus on making quality games first, and I think that's where having Web2 game designers can be very important, because they know how to create fun games, because that's their whole bread and butter. That's how they make money.
So I'm going to defer to Lovox on this and kind of jump in here. When we're looking we were seeing so many games kind of rolling out at Galaverse, and some of them look really amazing, and we're definitely we're bullish. But at the same time, selling the NFTs for the games now, in regards to like the timeline, I just it's really kind of hard for me to kind of grasp, and we kind of have discussed this, what that means. So what I'm hearing and what it makes sense to me is like kind of build the game first, then worry about the NFTs. And in the NFT space, however, it's almost kind of like build the NFTs, fund the games. So is
Yeah.
there what's the magic sauce there, do you think?
Well, and that's I mean, Infinigods, for example, had 9 million in funding first, to get this all started. So they didn't have to fund their project with, NFT or consumers essentially, which is very nice. The fact that they don't rely completely on, selling their NFTs or secondary market sales to build their game. Which I think is, pretty important, because then otherwise there's like pressure, because it's like, we funded the game, like when kind of thing, where it's like, okay, let's, go out and find our own funding. And maybe there's an argument there that, you're going to be beholden to who funded you. But also I think that it gives you time and to develop something like of quality, and then figure out how to scale that to consumers as well. That's kind of, my thoughts on that. Don't know if that answered.
No, it's great. It's great. So now let's kind of just go back, because I do want to kind of tie this into the AKU world, and especially like Miami's experience last year. But let's just go back, and what was kind of not just your introduction to AKU, but like what's your introduction to just NFTs in general, and then how did you come across AKU?
So my introduction to NFTs was through NBA Top Shot, like I think probably the majority of us.
What month did you first sign up?
I think it was like November-ish 2020.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We
were January
2021.
Yeah,
2020.
That first Deck the Hoops pack was the like really kind of our first like big pack drop.
That was actually, I think, my first big pack drop. Before then, I was just buying, like the $10 common packs.
Yeah.
And I remember I got like a Giannis, one of 80 something, 84 or something like that in my, that pack, and I was stoked. And then I think I sold it for, I don't know, $1,500 or something like that, and I was ecstatic.
Yeah.
And that was actually my first introduction to you and Ox. Was I watched a podcast with you interviewing, I think, Alan from Dapper Labs.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That was the first time. So that was, yeah. And then obviously not knowing you guys were in AKU, and then running into you guys at the Grails Moon God drinks and dinner. I was, small NFT world.
It really is. And then you kind of don't even realize I had, that's crazy that that first podcast was something that you actually seen, and Alan was great. I just, the whole, we did that, Deck the Hoops, and, I pulled a LeBron,
Nice.
LeBron Decks the Hoops. And then I think it was like a week later, and that was when there were still packs where you could just buy. And it was almost like we were just bored one Saturday night, and it's like, why don't we just open a couple more packs? And then it ended up, I think, buying like 20, 30 packs each, and just actually enjoying it and having fun. But I remember what was fascinating about that Deck the Hoops is that I think we sold it for around 8,000, as a bron. But then, that skyrocket of the month from, January 1st to into February, and then you see, and it's listed for like 80,000. It's just like, what were we thinking? But nobody could have predicted. And all those board packs that we opened, that's what, I remember, like, there was like a week or two where I would just refresh and be like, I'm up $1,000. I'm up another 1,000. Like, it was insane.
Printing money, pinching magic internet, dapper bucks.
Yeah.
It was, at least the $1,000 could probably buy you like a good psychologist or something for that.
Wiggles, first of all, thank you for coming. Definitely appreciate you. I noticed earlier you mentioned the term community generated content. Can you speak to that? Because I believe that a lot of Web3 programs are going in that direction, and many folks may not understand exactly what that means.
Yeah, well, I think it's like an evolving, concept. We, began writing a Web3 NFT centric newsletter and creating kind of like a media company based around that. But we started putting together articles, and at some point we figured that we weren't doing justice to some things. Because for a writer to like go and say write a guide on Aku, and if you spend a couple days on that, even like you don't know the intricacies of like that community, for example. So we're trying to figure out a way that's sustainable, that where we can either collaborate with experts, like Jason and yourself on specific projects that would, help produce content. If you're producing that content anyways, we want to be able to give that a platform as well. And then perhaps figure out traditional Web2 revenue models and how we can funnel that down to like the community that is helping generate the content. I mean, like the ideal way we see it is experts are, in different fields, whether that's ENS domains, Aku, project specific, where it's tokenomics, are writing and producing content, which maybe they would be producing anyways, most likely in the Web3 space, because so many people are producing it for free, and then figuring out a way to curate that for the largest possible reach, and figuring out a unique revenue model where people can, where it's sustainable essentially. So
are you finding non-Web3 users finding your content and digesting your content, and how are you finding those folks?
So that has been a difficulty, and we're starting to reach out to like consumers and on LinkedIn. That's going to be like one of our main driving forces, capturing the attention outside of the Twitter sphere and our silos in Discord and etc. We want to produce different content kind of verticals for different people, whether it's the LinkedIn people that want to get interested or want to I guess cross that gap to Twitter and like NFT content kind of thing, and make it like digestible, because a lot of the content you see on Twitter isn't digestible for like the average let's say more white collar person on LinkedIn, and vice versa. So we're trying to create content that kind of can bring in, I guess, multiple people from different different like media platforms.
What I have this issue, and we ask all our guests, and we talk about all the time. It's just like when you're trying to explain, and I'll make it even simpler if it is simpler. Like when you're trying to like explain NFTs, and certainly like a project like Aku, and why people should kind of adopt this, and not just kind of roll their eyes, call it the Beanie Babies of like what is your kind of, I don't want to say argument, but like how do you kind of pitch the whole Web3 and NFTs and Aku?
I always pitch it as like essentially crowdsourcing the development of a particular IP, where that creator can choose to reward you however they see fit, whether it's financially, through experiences, access to in real life events and such. And I always, I think it's the power back in the people's hands, rather than Disney creating IP and then it's just like all their head honchos making all the money, like not spreading it out to the consumers, not being involved in the actual development of the IP. So that's how I usually explain it, in simple terms to people I'm dealing with. If you want to have a say in developing Disney's IP, how are you going to do that? Whereas, if I want to have a say in, Aku's IP, I can literally, DM Micah, or maybe like there's a Moon God Council. Like there's a much clearer path to feed, like I guess some sort of positive feedback loop, and community generated content in a way. that's what I got into the NFT space for. Like, what grabbed my attention outside of prices going up in Top Shot is, what you can really do as a community and how you can have, if, for example, Bored Ape, you have like whatever 25,000 more holders now when you include the other side lands, and it's like they're all like marketers for you now, right? They want you to succeed. They want your brand to succeed because financially now they're invested, and the more known that brand becomes, likely your asset appreciates. More people want it.
So, what was the first thing that kind of onboarded you to AKU? Like, was there a moment? Was it just kind of, because it sounds like we've kind of been around. We have similar growth patterns. Although I think you were taking accelerated courses while I was in the remedial. But so, what was that first, onboarding for AKU for you, and what made you gravitate towards that, especially to become a moon god? Because I can tell you, as much as we loved the art and we did the interview with Micah on the old podcast, at the same time, it's like, it was, without knowing that there was going to be free chapters, it's like, this dude wants me to invest $10,000 into being a moon god, like that was kind of a hard pill to swallow. As time went on, it was actually a lot easier of a task. But so what was it for you?
Yeah. Let's see, what got me hook, line, and sinker. I don't know. My AKU journey started with, just seeing chapter 1 on Nifty Gateway. So I watched like the chapter 1 video and didn't really know what it was about. It just caught my eye. So I was like, oh, that's cool. What is this about? Kind of probably just read the description, went away, saw it again. And then an OG from Top Shot, AG. I don't know if you know AG. He shit posts a lot on.
Yeah, I love his. He's one of my.
So he's from Vancouver. So
yeah,
we have some mutual connections. But he posted something about it on Twitter. And it was like, I don't know, it's that rule of 3 or something. You see something a few times, you should probably go back. And I went back to it and looked into it, kind of looked into what Micah was building, fell in love with like the character. I was like, okay, I can see like AKU becoming like a household character. And then I think I got in the Discord, ended up buying the first 2 chapters, came in for the chapter 3 mint. And the rest was history. But I think the thing that got me was the road to achieving like moon god status, because I was like, okay, like I don't know what this is going to become, but like either way there's going to be experiences tied to it. I was like, maybe revenue or something like that. Like, didn't really, I guess, know. I guess definitely considered it maybe more of like maybe a financial investment at the beginning, which turned into more of a I guess loving what the whole project was about, right? Dreaming and achieving your goals and giving voices to underrepresented populations, stuff like that. But I guess becoming a moon god was kind of what first got me. So I think that was brilliant marketing on his behalf, or the team's behalf at that point. Be one of, and then ending up being, after that chapter 3, being like, okay, there's can only ever be 500 and what is it, 779 of us or something like that with statues. Is that close to it?
There's 529 chapter moon gods, like potential. I don't know how actually their unique holders are. And then now with the mega moon gods, which isn't the same, but I imagine at some point they'll probably, kind of lump us together.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned achieving moon god status and finding that chapter 1, and that chapter 1, by the way, was definitely, I think, what caught my attention. What is it now that's providing allure for you to stay and kind of continue the journey and see how this thing unfolds? Like, what are you looking forward to in the future?
So like I've because of I guess the floor prices that AKU hit and I guess where they're down from, it's like I psychologically have kind of detached myself from floor prices now. Like I've overcome the trauma of that. And I mean, Top Shot obviously helped me initially, but like I'm here just because I can I want to see like what Aku and Micah and like all of us, together can achieve regarding the IP, like, whether that's, different education verticals, sports, financing different, cool projects like through a Mood God Council. I know that was, talked on. I don't know if that's still in the plans. So I'm just like, I'm just excited to be involved for the long run, and hopefully maybe have some sort of say in things. And like, Mike is going off and developing the IP, like it's, would be showing out at Disney in France right now. Who knows what he's doing there? But yeah, and like, offering to help wherever I can, whether that's, like using, an Aku as a, educational content writer, character in, Decentro Daily, whether that's, yeah, building another, some sort of vertical around Aku that makes sense. Yeah, I'm excited to see it move forward.
When we did Miami last year, what was your takeaway coming out of that? And now, what would your expectations be for this year? Are you going this year?
I am not going this year, unfortunately.
That's a poke.
I know. I wish I'm going to be down in Australia, unfortunately, and I have a lot of family here that I essentially have neglected over the past 2 years since Fortress Australia was put up during COVID. So I couldn't come back. But yeah, I mean, like the experience, like, as you know, was amazing down in Miami. Like I guess it kind of blew all my expectations away, just how like big league it seemed. And how well we were treated, being holders there, being able to meet Micah, being able to meet the team, kind of just, yeah, it kind of made NFTs for me much more real, because before that I had just been talking to, random people on the internet. And then when you actually, like get together and all sit down, it's like, oh, like, you're JWoww, you're Ox, like, you're Tuggy, you're whoever it may be. And it kind of just, it makes it feel a lot more real. So that's, I think, what it, instilled in me. And then like even seeing, meeting Micah and just realizing how like down to earth he is as a creator, and like how passionate he was about this, and like when it was a night, whole week, for whatever few days it was for him, with a focus on him, he just seemed like he wasn't like reveling in it. There was like something in him that was like, yo, this is just the beginning, and that, yeah.
I just want to mention, like, I just remember, because I basically spent every day, at Aku World, even though it was like a, recycled every day, but just running into people and stuff. But you would just see Micah, and it was almost like you wouldn't even know it was his exhibit. He was just standing there looking around, like,
Yeah,
like one of us, he's very humble and approachable. And that was great. And I've obviously run into him a few times since then too. And yeah, it's kind of like we have that saying, like, we are Aku, or that's an Aku thing. And he's definitely, like a real life version of Aku, an older version.
yeah, no, I definitely agree. And yeah, I mean, like anyone that is like borderline considering going to Aku World, considering going down for that, it's still being held during Art Basel, right?
Right.
Yeah, like I would say, book your ticket, just go. You won't regret it, in my opinion.
I've been fortunate, and I've met several folks who've kind of caught the NFT bug from Australia. Is there a tight-knit group of you guys there, or am I just kind of generalizing?
No, there is a tight group here. I've actually, like, I'm pretty deep in the Pixel Vault community. That's where my profile picture Wiggles is from. He's a meta hero core character in their ecosystem, so they're building comics around him. But through that community, I've met quite a few Aussies. And yeah, they lived in, a lot in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne. I don't really know any in Adelaide, but there seems like a strong core down here, and I don't really know why that is, but well, maybe. I mean, a lot of Aussies love basketball, so I mean, like, so come to think of it, I would assume a lot got onboarded with Top Shot, and then through that potentially got into other NFTs like us.
So I've definitely heard of the Pixel Vault and I've heard of the Pixel comics. I remember when the first issue came out and I never quite pulled the trigger. How was Pixel Vault going and trying to bridge the gap that I think all Web3 based projects are trying to do and attract new folks from outside of the NFT ecosystem?
Mm-hmm. So I think they're kind of just like creating multiple verticals that will, appeal to different niches. So they have like a Pixel Vault Sports vertical, which has partnered with Major League Baseball and also with Dana White. So actually the MLB, like I think it's like highlight of the week is now called Pixel Vault Heroic Hands. It comes up
Wow.
on like, it comes up on the screen when there's like a good catch or whatever. I know they have more plans for the MLB partnership. Not too sure what is going to happen with Dana White / UFC kind of vertical they're building, but I think they want to do create content and storytelling around like athletes as well. So that's one vertical. The Punks comic vertical is like essentially comic books, so appealing to comic book nerds kind of thing, and creating like good quality storylines for their characters, just like I guess you could say Marvel and stuff like that. And then their last vertical is Meta Hero Universe, which is going to be gaming centric. So like play to earn gaming, just think of that. And underlying kind of all of this, with a lot of their mint funds, they created a large DAO, which is going to feed into the like Meta Hero Universe gaming system. It's called the UpDAO, which there's $22 million in the UpDAO, and if you own planetary tokens, like have voting rights over those DAO funds, and we're gonna like work. I guess DAO owners, I won't say we, but they're gonna work side by side with Pixel Vault to, I guess, make the Meta Hero Universe gaming platform come to life. So it's these decentralized kind of storytelling and ability to contribute. That's what I like.
So Ox came up with this question he always wants to ask about getting rugged. Love Ox, you want to take that?
Oh.
We've all had the project where, hey, I wish I didn't do that, or man, I lost my shorts. That was a horrible trade. What as someone who's been experienced in the NFT space, I have many. Curious to get your best one.
Ooh, where have I been rugged? Let's see. I think so. I think I have two different stories. So I minted I think Slum Doge back in the day. That was Slumdog or something like that. I think I minted like 20 of them instead of buying a second Bored Ape at the time. And yeah, their team ended up completely ghosting on the project. So that definitely hurt, having that opportunity cost, just watching, maybe a couple $100,000 just walk away from you with that decision I made. So that hurt. There was like another project that I think my feelings were more rugged for. It was like House of Kiba, which I thought had like incredible potential because they were the first project that really came out and caught my eye visually, like creating 3D environments, talked about play to earn. And yeah, their team just was not really receptive to, criticisms, or at least constructive criticism. And that's something I really, now value, is like trusting my gut on things, and not just being like, oh, these guys are smarter than me, these guys are like the smartest guys in the room kind of thing. It's like sometimes you have to be like, no, you know what, like I don't believe in a lot of decisions that are being made, and now like I need to cut my losses. So
I think there's a word or phrase, positive toxicity, and I think that runs rampant through NFT projects, especially when everything is going good. And boy, when it turns, like I get annoyed sometimes where like like the GMs in the mornings, that's fine. But when it's just like, people are just, you know what I'm talking about, that positive toxicity.
Mhm.
It's like good vibes, good vibes, good vibes. And nobody's talking about the elephant in the room. And like, I feel like with Top Shot, as the best example is like, man, for 2-3 months, like they could do no wrong. And I think a lot of people could kind of see some writing on the wall, but that what you kind of got to where I would just sit there and I was like, they've got to be smarter than me, right? I can't.
Mhm.
I'm nobody. Like I have no experience in this, but these are things that I definitely would not be focused on or doing. And then they do them, and then and you mentioned AG from Vancouver, like for I love his Twitter feed, especially when Top Shot posts anything.
I know, it's great.
Quick to the trigger, But I think you need a balance. It can't just be all puppy dogs and rainbows.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I actually I changed my rug answer, Ox, to Top Shot. NBA Top Shot is what rugged me most because I'm a diehard Toronto Raptors fan. And I was just so bullish on, the potential of Top Shot and what, it could really do for fandom and how you could, uniquely reward people and like, the game they were going to come out with and just everything. And it was just like, just turned into just something I will never open that website again.
It's funny you say that. Like when we first found Top Shot, it's probably the best example of like me just loving NFTs. The sound of the pack cracking open, and then the moments, and then the different colors under what you got. Like it was really like they found something, and man, did they squander it at the same time. Like, it's a little disappointing.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like visually, everything was like perfect, everything. And then I think, just took their consumers for granted, right? Just saw
Yeah.
like a money printing thing.
We find that folks are either going to be chapter guys or they're going to be Akutar guys in our ecosystem. What do you lean? Like, what is your favorite? Do you find yourself leaning towards chapters or Akutars?
I think like there's so many unknowns for me in terms of like the utility. So I initially, for example, I have, I think 40 chapters. And I think I have 25 or something Akutars. I've only sold one Aku asset since I've been in, which was a chapter 3 actually. But so I guess you could say I'm kind of both. I think I see the chapters as more of like a foundation, and hopefully, that they were always pointed to in the rewards, I guess, that we would get would be more towards chapter holders. And then I envisioned the Akutars maybe having quite a large part in a play to earn gaming ecosystem. And that's why I was very bullish on those, because I'm just bullish on play to earn gaming in general. And I liked the fact that, similar to Infinite Gods or these games I'm bullish on, you'd have the assets, play to earn assets before any sort of tokenomics released. And so, yeah, I think I'm equally bullish. If I was to buy something right now, I'd probably be buying chapters, cheap chapters. So I guess I'm a chapter guy.
What's the last thing that you bought? Aku related.
The last thing that I bought, I'm trying to think. I think maybe it was 3 Akutars for like, I think 4 ETH each, 4 ETH each, right after mint. So down a little bit on those. So I mean, it's coming up to the end of the year. I might need to sell those and eat my losses.
Take the tax hit, yeah. I did not financial advice, guys, but I sold all those mint. Like I bought like 3 mint passes right before, we went before it minted, solely so I could sell the NFT later for like $50. So
Yeah.
that was kind of the move that I made for tax purposes. And at the time, I was really concerned about tax purposes because, before Black Friday, in the AKU world, I was like, man, I might need to move to Puerto Rico to figure this tax situation out. Like I legit was like counting the months and like, how many months when do I need to be in Puerto Rico to qualify as resident and all that stuff. Didn't have to worry about that after all. But I do think I've always said, like, I feel like the true moon god of the chapter holders is kind of like this cool mastermind. But I think, like, see how am I saying this? What I would like to see is that more people get awareness of like the mega and the potential, but also have more, I guess, clearly defined what that potential for the mega could be. Because I think that, that's something that's been slept on. And, we could argue that, well, what I thought when we went to mint was that the first 500 of the rarest were all going to be the moon gods, and maybe a couple of the like hand-drawn ones sprinkled in there. And then when that rarity thing comes out, some of the moon gods are like, pretty, their rankings are pretty low. And, when you're onboarding all the new people, like you don't realize what's exactly special. It's that rarity number really kind of matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I guess what I'm getting at for you is if there is something that you are looking at, is it just solely kind of sweeping up some chapters, or what's that moon god IP? What does that resonate with you?
Yes. Are you talking about like, so using the moon god IP?
Well, yeah. And how attractive is that to people coming into the space?
I think we have to, for me, I'm in kind of like a holding pattern until to like wait and see like, what further things come out with AKU, like, and I think that's with a lot of, projects like, Mike is building. And I think that I don't see a clear path to like right now in this moment to like a value proposition, for me to, I guess, like say one way or the other on, the mega OG or like moon gods in general. Like, I don't know if I can good conscience, I guess, like offer financial advice to like, like to someone to buy those, like financially, like I think it's going to be like a great project. And I think it's going to be IP that we see ideally, I think we're going to see it all around the world. But then how does that, translate to our, mega OGs, to our moon god status? Like, I think that is, we have a lot of trust in Micah and the team. And again,
there's been so many big moves, the Time Magazine, the NASA, taking an NFT to space, AKU World and things. I feel like I can't predict what like the next big thing, that could, help propel. I also don't know that like, does like LeBron James changing his profile picture to a moon god, does that move the needle in the market that we're in? So what do you think is like something that you would like to see that would have like a real positive effect on like just the overall AKU world?
I think because you see AKU on the cover of Time Magazine. We don't know if LeBron would help changing his profile picture. I think for me the most exciting thing is like I want to see AKU as like a compelling character in like a TV series or a movie, and if that content is compelling quality, there's great storytelling. I think that is like the easiest road to success. And I think and that's why I trust Micah and team, because I think that's exactly what they're doing. Like, I know they're developing a movie, and I think that if that gets out there, and then the one thing for me is I would like AKU whether it was an NFT or not, and that's what pretty much sold me on it. And that's where I think like our biggest value thing is. And maybe that turns into like, do people want these to show that they're a part of like amazing IP, and it's maybe just a flex thing, there's that value proposition, because as we know in this world, like flexing and having something that you don't have and someone else has, like there's always that element to it. Yeah, and then whatever, sort of utility we get from the team directly, movie premieres, and all that, all that kind of stuff. So I think, yeah, I don't know. I'm trusting the team and developing cool IP, and I think that just like generally flows down to holders of both AKUTARs and chapters. And I, not financial advice. I don't know if I'll make any money off it, and I've completely detached from that. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So there's two things I wanted to hit on, and then we'll kind of get to the end of the show. That I recently saw, and the first one, I just want to get someone else's thoughts on that project where 40 minutes after they closed minting, one of the founders died. Did you see that?
I saw it. I saw a few tweets on it, and I think I saw that. Yeah, it was running in some Discord that I was in.
Like, is that real? Like, is that real? That can't be real, right?
No, it's not real. It's shock value. I think they came out with like another tweet after or something and said he was resurrected or some shit like that. But I mean, like, that's the thing I love about the Web3 space is like you can almost do anything here, like, and you can try out different marketing tactics. You can just like have fun that like traditional brands and marketing can't really do.
Mm-hmm.
Like imagine a brand doing that. I mean, like, I don't really know what context you could do that. What if you could fake like a founder's death or something like that? That would not go over well. But here it's just like, oh, another day in NFTs. It's like we're living out just like, I don't know, these just weird alternate universe, like that if you showed your parents your Twitter feed, they'd be like, what the heck? Like, who are you? Like,
Yeah.
I like that sort of stuff. I just find like kind of entertaining. I would never invest in a project like that, but I mean, they're having fun. Like,
and so I also wanted to ask, I don't know if you are a Bored Ape holder, but I feel like you were at one point at least. Am I safe to assume that without without revealing your bags?
Yeah, no, I wasn't an ape holder. I'm not anymore. I have a mutant ape, but that is the extent of my Bored Ape bag.
So I think like if you were like an NBA team and you're like the Oklahoma City Thunder, you're always looking at the other teams that are, the Golden States, the Milwaukee Bucks, like the top teams, and how can they move and make moves to get to that top echelon. So for this, the Bored Apes is obviously number one. Is there something that you, besides timing, which actually is very huge, is there something that community is doing that Aku's kind of missing the boat on? And is there something that Aku could do that would still be in line with who they are, that's similar to the Bored Apes?
Yeah, I mean, like I think with Bored Apes, they, a lot of holders they made them their digital identities. And like, I definitely understand the psychology behind that, because selling my ape at the time was a hard thing to do, because like that was kind of how I started to forge my relationships within the NFT space. And you make connections, people refer to you as that. It's like your little superhero alter ego in a way. You don't have to really worry about what you say. You can try things out because no one knows who you are. And I think the power of like digital identities is like huge and has like a very strong network effect. And I think for me, that's where like just Aku is more of a movement rather than, like all of us having like Aku profile pictures as much, because a lot of the time I look on Twitter and I can't tell, like two AKUTARs apart sometimes. I'm like, I just like, oh, that person's in Aku, like I can get down with them, rather than Bored Apes, like I can usually recognize whose ape is who, kind of thing. I think that might have like just like, I don't know. I don't really know where I'm going with, but like, you don't really, I don't know. Aku's not really individualized, I guess. the way that Bored Apes are.
Mhm.
Like I don't maybe I'm not in Aku as much, but I don't hear people talking about like this is my forever Akutar, you know? Whereas like you hear that a little bit more in Bored Ape. And from that, yeah.
I feel like the moon gods you can do that with because there's not as
Yeah.
many, and there there's a uniqueness. Like I mine that I use is I'm not a huge Prince fan, but as soon as I saw it, like my first thought was I was like, man, that's like the Prince of Mega of moon gods. I was like, I got to roll with that.
Mhm.
Lovevox, he's got a few, but with like the slick black suit and a bat, like you know, he's a sharp dude that's can throw some punches. That's
Yeah.
fitting for him.
No, I can see that for sure. Like, so like what are your thoughts on like the IP and like what
I
you'd want to do with them?
Well, I was reading this thread, which is what made me kind of go into it, and I'm just always curious, what like other communities' involvements are doing outside of mine. The Bored Apes, like there was this thread and it basically broke down like what they did early on to get success by gifting apes to celebrities, um, you know, basically giving like apes for free to NFT influencers, and this like small build that they got to where it was all of a sudden it became cool. Because I remember the night it was minting, and the thread said the first influencer that they gave an ape to was Girl's dad, and and he's a moon god too, so I can't wait to kind of ask him about that experience. But you know and then he posted about it, shilled it, and then another micro influencer, another, and then Pranksy comes in and buys like 1,000 of them or something crazy, and then it still didn't like take off to the numbers right away, but it kind of did. It was a genius marketing move, and I think that some others have tried to replicate it. Like you're in Australia, I was part of the Lazy Lions for a bit, and like every time someone would tweet, they would blast in the Discord like, "Hey guys, someone just bought one, like show them love." And you would, your tweet would get like bombarded by, the Lions, and it was kind of cool, but at the same time, I felt like it was disingenuous, back to that positive toxicity type of thing. So I just know how many cool people are attached to Aku, and I just really kind of wish more people knew about it, like that knew that the Pharrells and the Pushas and LeBron's camp and like Trevor Noah and like I just kind of wish it was more of a thing where we had that. With that said, I also believe that there's this like hype machine that can kind of work for floor values, but I think that I hope that our reward is certainly like in a long term. Like I know that we don't have ownership, but I still always just kind of feel like we're on like the ground floor of like Facebook or Tesla or something, and I hope we're there.
I know, I do too. And I think that's like where maybe like Aku can differentiate is like, we like the Bored Ape founders, they're out there spreading, the Bored Ape IP, partnering with different people, pushing that, like, and I think that's what like, Micah and Summer, Roger are all doing, they're all out there creating these connections, with Pusha T, LeBron, TV shows, all that. And it's like, well, then how can us holders like be involved in maybe like the creation of the lore? Like we're all Aku, like how can we maybe drive like the storylines, the character development, can we be involved in that portion of it? Like that's what I'd love to see.
I always thought too, like Oprah or Obama, like you can't tell me like I hope they know about it, but if they do not know about it, like those are two people that are just beyond just NFTs and the story and everything, it's like it just seems like something that's just right in line for them to really kind of get behind. And
Yeah.
and I mean, obviously Obama's not changing his profile picture. I don't even know if Oprah has her actual Twitter. That's it's probably run by the company, but if they would just, I wrote a book years ago, and I was able to market it such that it was a top Amazon seller. But in the back of my mind, I was just like, I know if like Oprah ever, put it on her book list, like I'm a New York bestseller overnight. Like that's and it seems like the same would happen. And the message, it ties so well to those two.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, you have to think the team is like aware of those, connections and like what that would do for, the project as a whole and the IP. Like, I mean, it just seems like such a fluid fit with, with any of those people you mentioned, and I like AKU, I can see being the face of like some sort of movement, for empowerment. And I really think that's like where AKU differentiates itself from all these other NFT projects and yeah, that's what I'd lean into that as hard as you can. So
Yeah, Wiggles, and kind of to add commentary to your question. I think one thing that we have that I didn't quite think about, it didn't register until now, is we have a high barrier to entry. Now, I think that not necessarily in regards to price, because I think in pricing terms, folks look at ETH a bit different than regular money, but I would say in regards to time, right? So we had chapter 1, we have chapter 2, and one thing that a lot of other projects had that we didn't have is this instantaneous explosive growth, right? Where it took us time to get to a moon god. It took time to release the Akutars. And by then you had several projects that have 10x, 20x, 30x, where we're still kind of slowly grinding it and getting going. And then with that, all the social media marketing, I think we kind of missed some of that as well because again of I call it the high time barrier of entry. Now, with that being said, I do think there's things that we can do as a community going forward to kind of spread the message around, but just the makeup of our community is just different, I think, than a lot of other communities. Therefore, it's not exactly apples to apples, if that makes any sense.
yeah, that for sure does. And I think, yeah, I agree with that. 100% agree with the barrier to entry. Like similar to Pixel Vault, like these ecosystems that are a bit difficult to understand because there's like quite a few, say, NFTs, the chapters and Akutars, Pixel Vault has a bunch of other NFTs as well, and how they all fit in together when we have maybe like outdated medium articles that, are out there and haven't maybe been updated because like there are kind of moving goalposts. Like these projects are evolving, like as, every day things are probably changing behind the scenes. And then how is that, relayed to holders and especially, like to onboard new holders when, yeah, I guess the value proposition isn't super clear because a lot of the time we're waiting on maybe information from these projects that are a little bit more difficult to understand.
Well, guys, we're getting close to that magical 1 hour mark, but we always have to get a little personal. Yeah. I love you're from Canada or you're from Australia?
I am from Canada. I was born there, and my dad is a Canadian, my mom is an Aussie. So I kind of spent time growing up between the two countries.
So my question is a Canadian question.
Yeah.
Poutine. And I don't know if I said it the Canadian.
Poutine.
Do it with your British accent.
When you're eating poutine, what is your favorite kind of gravy?
Oh my goodness.
Favorite kind of gravy.
Because let me help you. So I've been to Canada a few times, and I get it, and like it's usually like this like shredded kind of beef, like with like a thick gravy. But then I get the American version, and it's like got this cheese curd, and it's on like French fries. A little different. It doesn't hit the same as it does north of the border.
Yeah. I mean, we have great poutine up there. all sorts. I mean, cheese curds are very like typically kind of, we like that in Canada. You know, like a lot of places just put shredded cheese, on top, that I've been to outside of Canada. I'm like, what is this shit? Um, you're slandering my whole country at this, or culture at this moment. But
So
yeah, like
it is a popular. It is it's not like something Americans just kind of think that, or at least this American thinks like it's a Canadian thing. It is very popular.
it's 100% a Canadian thing, and especially because like we don't. This, I mean, besides like what, pancakes and maple syrup, like I don't really know of too many like Canadian foods, So like, if you're like, what's a Canadian dish? It's like, okay, like yeah, poutine is up there. So yeah, anything with cheese curds, and then when you get into like adding pulled pork, like yeah, pulled pork and like lots of meat on there as well, and just like yeah, thick gravy. I don't know, just
What's
it's
so
delicious, and it probably is like lowering your lifespan by a few years, but I mean, so worth it.
Yeah. My last Canadian thing. So I spent a number of years playing poker professionally, and Canada has some fierce professional poker players. Now, once Black Friday, when they shut down internet gambling, a lot of Americans moved to Vancouver because they could jump across the border. Toronto is known for having like some of the best professional poker players. I believe Daniel Negreanu is the most famous from there. I don't know what your poker experience is, if that's something that resonates with you. But are Canadians just better gamblers than the rest of the world?
Uh, I don't know about that. I don't know. I mean, I know that, the extent of my poker abilities is uh, ending up drunk at the casino at the end of the night and losing probably $100. Um, but so I'm not a great gambler by any means. But yeah, I know quite a few people that are into gambling up here. Maybe it's the weather, because like very cold, so it's like a lot of weekend nights you'd get together with the boys and have like a poker night. When it's snowing outside or something like that. So I'm gonna say our acumen in poker is for the prairies and out east, and where it's cold, and then you Americans took over Vancouver.
Do you ever watch the show Letterkenny?
I do. I love Letterkenny.
Oh, good. I love it too.
It's so good. Do you understand it?
I've watched I binged both the full series twice. The second
Nice.
time it was much funnier the second time because I could finally pick up on it. But yeah, to be fair.
Yeah, to be fair, no, I recommend any American should watch Letterkenny, and that is how like kind of how yeah, small town Canadian country people. I'll stop at Hicks, but that's kind of how they talk,
I,
especially artists.
I felt like it was like the South, in the United States with the Canadian accent. Like that's
Yeah, no, exactly. You get hockey fights.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing show. So
Girls have definitely become snipers and rockets. And what's great is
yeah, you
one
got
of
a Sally.
yeah, one of my best friends. He's from Canada. He was a professional wrestler, and so we still go to the hockey games, like the Kings games and stuff. And so now I feel like a better connection because he would always call like the hockey players like the boys, and I was like, why do you always call them boys? These dudes are huge,
Yeah,
Now I
these
get
guys.
yeah.
Yeah,
So.
no, it's good. Good expanding your horizons on different, yeah, like niches within cultures.
Well, if I haven't bored Ox to death with my Canadian prowess, what you got last for us, big man?
Surely the word isn't poutine, it's poutine, correctly? I mean, correct? How do you
Poutine.
pronounce? Yeah, poutine.
Poutine.
So yeah, not poutine like you said, Mr. Jason.
Poutine. Yeah. If you have multiple dishes, it's poontang.
So I currently live in Chicago, and I think I do cold very, very well, right? So it can be -5 for a week and a half, and no problem. Last year I went to Montreal, and I landed in Montreal, and it snowed 25 inches, and then it proceeded to get to negative 25 degrees, and I realized I didn't do cold as nearly as good as I thought I did. How do you do with that kind of cold in Canada?
Well, actually, I moved to Australia because of that very reason.
I mean, how do
So,
you, it was incredible.
yeah, you're bringing my PTSD back. No, yeah, no, well, Vancouver is obviously like more temperate, so
Yes.
it just rains a lot there. So like seasonal depression was more my issue. Not seeing like the sun for 280 days of the year, something like that, ridiculous. But yeah, like I lived on the prairies in Saskatchewan, and we got to those the temperatures you're talking about, and it just, I don't know, it breeds a different kind of person. I don't know. Life can slap you in the face, and it's just like because you live through, digging out your car from a mound of snow before you have to go to work, and it's just like another day. I don't know. It's just it breeds some sort of mental fortitude where just life can continually beat you up. I feel like because the weather's doing it as well. So yeah.
Joe Rogan always says that like Boston comedians are so great because they deal with the cold, and boy, does Canada have a lot of comedians coming out of there too. So you must be able to just get beat so bad with the cold that you just become funny.
Exactly.
You resilience.
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't have that.
When you lose a couple toes, you got to be able to laugh it off.
I guess my last thing is I've always wanted to go to Australia and visit the Great Barrier Reef. Have you seen that by chance?
I have. Yeah. Are you going to come down? Because
I
I'll
am.
take
I'm
you there.
100% I'm coming down to see that.
Well, you and Jason should come down and we'll go. But I've been out snorkeling and scuba diving on the Great Barrier Reef probably I think 3 times now, and I'm actually going up there uh just before Christmas. So that's actually where I'll probably be when AKU World is on. I'll be swimming in northern Queensland on the Great Barrier Reef, but it's amazing. Like the type of diving and snorkeling you can do up there, and just like the color of the fish, the reef, if you get like the reef in like a good spot where there hasn't like no bleaching has occurred. But I heard that that because of the lack of tourists in Australia, that the reef has kind of bounced back. So probably in the next year or two, it might be a good time to check it out while it's still alive.
Is there have you been to another type of reef? Like I've done some diving like in Hawaii, and I went to Belize and snorkeled around their reef and stuff. Have you been to another reef to kind of just draw a comparison on how great the Great Barrier Reef is?
I've only been to probably a reef in Hawaii, but it was, I don't know. I don't think it was like it wasn't like a tourist spot, we'll say that. So right. I don't really have too much of a comparison.
Yeah. I went to Belize to the Blue Hole. I don't Google it. It's like this, looks like a meteor just hit the ocean, and it's like super deep. It was cool. It wasn't what National Geographic makes the Great Barrier Reef to look like. So we definitely gotta make that trip. And we've made, that's what's so great about this community, not just in Aku, but like NFTs. Like we're talking off camera about our guy Wade's from the NBA Top Shot days. The ruler of Squanchland. I've got my buddy Carradine that's down in Adelaide. Like we've definitely got some Australian connections, and a big part of that's from the NFT space. And that's what's the coolest thing ever. Is being truly international and global.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. The connections I'm making in the space are just kind of like mind blowing. The opportunities like you get through these connections, it's just like you wouldn't have in a lot of other fields. Like we're all kind of becoming experts and finding our own ways. And even me, just like I think like the anonymity, like being able to use my profile picture and just create a different like person has like really kind of empowered me. So yeah, I love what NFTs stand for, and I love what the connections I'm making, and like what I'm becoming through them.
Well, we always end the show by utilizing said connections. So our question is, who would you like to see next on the Moon God channel? And the caveat is you have to be able to help us get them.
Ooh, who would I like to see on the Moon God channel? I'm gonna throw out AG on there. I think he's still a Moon God. So I'd like to hear you guys riff about Top Shot, and I feel like he would be a little bit more combative than my personality.
He's definitely on the list. I wanted to wait to reach out to him until basketball season was in full swing to get, I need him to get in, top shape, top regular season form. Can't have him, showing up as like a season shape, and early season shape. So got to get him, ready for that Christmas game.
Yeah, true. Or maybe DH. I haven't seen him in the Discord for a while.
Yeah. So, that's a good one.
I know he exudes positivity, and he was great at like the AKU World event.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna miss you in Miami this year, but I guess we'll just have to make some. Maybe AKU World goes to Australia at some point now that it's open again.
Yeah, well, Mike is going everywhere, so I mean, might as well have it in Australia next, right?
It's got to have some extra seats on those PJs.
Exactly. No, but yeah, thanks so much for having me, guys. This was a blast.
JwowLax, closing comments.
Wiggles, thanks again for your time. Much appreciated, and I love your insight.
Cheers, Ox. Appreciate it.
That's going to do it for another episode of To the Moon God Pod. Nothing better than connecting with Wiggles today and all the AKU members, especially our Moon Gods. That's what this channel is all about. So be sure, like, subscribe, comment. We're not begging, we're just asking. And that's how we will spread the amazing message of AKU and just show what amazing members we have. I've said it before. I believe that the Moon God is going to be, if not already, one of the ultimate masterminds. And so being a part of it, and then, also being a part of AKU in general, we talked about the connections that we make globally, locally. I found out, there's people down the street. Summer actually lives like 10 minutes away from me here in LA. The world gets much smaller and more empowering when we're all together. So that's going to do it for this episode. We will see you next time.